I believe President Trump was the right president at the right time. I was proud to serve America in his administration, and I agree with a lot of his policies. But the truth is, rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. You know I'm right. Chaos follows him.
That was Nikki Haley at a rally in Bluffton, South Carolina, pitching voters on why she thinks she's a better choice than Donald Trump. With just 7 weeks until Republican voters in Iowa have their voices heard, Haley touted polls showing her in second place in the first set of early state races. She also told the crowd that she expects the field to narrow after Iowa and after New Hampshire, which she suggested would allow her to have a real chance to win her home state of South Carolina. Trump, however, still has a wide lead in all 3 of those states.
But you can't deny Haley's rise in the polls, and that has raised questions for some about the viability of some of her candidates, including our next guest, Chris Christie, one of Trump's biggest critics, who has staked out a strategy to show strong support in New Hampshire. And he is with us this morning, former governor of New Jersey, presidential candidate. Good morning. It's great to have you.
Good to be here.
So we're listening to you this weekend with our friend Dana Bash on State of the Union, and you said something we haven't heard before, that you're in this through the convention, the summer.
Yep.
But here's what you told us in July. Listen.
After I lost in New Hampshire 8 years ago, Poppy, I got out.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't feel comfortable asking donors for more money or voters for their vote if I didn't see a realistic path to victory.
Then you also told the New York Times in September, if I don't do well in New Hampshire, then I leave. What changed?
Well, nothing's really changed. I just have gone much better in New Hampshire. And so it seems to me that there's no path now that doesn't include me continuing. I'm going to do well in New Hampshire.
What's well?
I think right now I'm in the top 3, and I think I'm going to do even better than that. And so, you know, that's what's changed. What's changed is that we've started to move up in the polls pretty significantly. Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy have dropped significantly in New Hampshire. And so that's what's changed. And so I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated as circumstances change. And circumstances have changed.
So you like the polls right now?
Well, you know, look, I still don't think the polls are really extraordinarily accurate. And my proof of that is just look back to the history. In 2007, at this time, Thanksgiving of 2007, Mitt Romney was winning the Iowa caucuses. And Mike Huckabee was at 4%. He wound up winning. In 2011, at this point, Newt Gingrich was winning the Iowa caucuses by a pretty wide margin. And Rick Santorum, Rick Santorum, who ultimately wound up winning,
he won.
Was at 3% on Thanksgiving of 2011. And in 2015, Ben Carson was winning by 10 points, and Ted Cruz was at 7%. And he wound up winning. So it's not that I distrust these particular polls. I just know that voters make their decisions very late in this business, and they're willing to change. In fact, in a recent poll we did, 3/4 of Donald Trump's voters in New Hampshire said they are open to changing their minds between now and primary day on January 23rd. So, you know, I know everybody wants to make this race over now, but it's not over, and it's not even close to over. And when you just look at the history, forget about predictions. Let's look at what's happened over time. And what's happened tells you that there's a long way to go here, and I like the fact that we're gaining momentum now.
It does seem, though, that the new kind of it candidate in the field right now is Nikki Haley. She's been rising in the polls. There's a lot of talk about her. One of the issues that I think she was able to differentiate, or has gotten credit for differentiating herself, is on abortion, particularly in the wake of what we saw in Virginia, what we saw a couple weeks ago in November. But I was struck a couple weeks ago in Iowa. She said she would sign a 6-week abortion ban. Poppy asked you about abortion when you were on set a couple months ago. Would you sign a 6-week abortion ban?
I would not sign a 6-week national abortion ban. And the reason I wouldn't is because we fought for 50 years, and I think we had this conversation a little bit before. We fought for 50 years to put this in the hands of the people, to say the federal government, in that case the Supreme Court, had taken it out of the hands of the people and given them no voice. Now people are having a voice, so we've seen it. You mentioned Virginia, Michigan, Ohio, Kansas. And one thing I know for sure is there is no consensus around a 6-week abortion ban nationally.
Do you think that makes her unelectable?
I think it makes it much more difficult in a general election for her, because you could see when Governor DeSantis signed that bill in Florida, it certainly affected his popularity with a broader electorate. And my view is this. I want the people, not the politicians, to make this decision. So let people vote in the states. We see a great exercise in democracy going on all across this country. This is one of the most emotional issues anyone's going to have to deal with. I'm pro-life. That's my personal belief, and I believe strongly in it. But here's the bottom line, is that people should be able to make this choice. It's too emotional to put this in the hands of politicians. And imagine if you're the American people and you watch this House of Representatives try to pick a speaker and see what they went through. Watch this Senate not be able to promote military officers because they're so paralyzed. You want to put abortion in the hands of those folks? I don't. So as president, I would not sign a 6-week abortion ban. It doesn't represent consensus in the country, and it's taking away, most importantly to me, what we fought for 50 years, was put this in the hands of the people, let each state make their own decision.
Let's talk about money, okay? Because it matters a whole lot
Yep.
in politics. There are some big money guys, and they are guys who, Ken Langone, who backed you in 2016 until you dropped out of the race, planning to meet with Nikki Haley next week. He told CNBC, the only person I see who can give Trump a run for his money is Nikki Haley. Ken Griffin, the big financier, big Republican donor, told Bloomberg he was actively contemplating it when it comes to Nikki Haley. Are you worried about the big money going after Haley?
I'm really not, because
Really?
no, because none of them have.
You don't want it? Well,
None of them have. And look, I've met with Ken Griffin and spoken to him as well. I think he's going through the process of trying to decide if there's someone that he believes could beat Donald Trump and if he wants to support that person. And there's plenty of other folks. And we've had a number of people, both folks that I've known over the years on Wall Street and folks around the country who have been supporting our campaign and supporting our super PAC. And so I don't feel concerned at all. We feel like you always could use more money, Poppy. So no one's going to say no.
this is why you surprised me when you
Contributions.
said you're not worried.
No, well, but we can't worry about this stuff. You go out and work.
Yeah.
And you make your case to the American people, including these donors, as to why you're the best alternative. And if you're convincing, you'll get them to write a check. And if you're not, you won't. But I don't sit every day worrying about it. And look, Governor Haley's campaign is good at putting out process stories, like even stories about someone meeting with someone. I don't put out stories about every person I meet with for two reasons. One, I don't know what the meeting is going to lead to. And two, I like to keep those things quiet. Those people tend to be more honest with you when they're quiet. And so, the process stories are wonderful. But in the end, what's going to matter is who are people voting for? And my concern about this abortion issue is real, because you can't say one thing in Iowa and something different in New Hampshire. Now, I was on the stage next to Governor Haley when she gave a long talk at I think it was the second debate, about how we don't want to divide the country on this. We have to respect everyone's opinions. But then when she's sitting across from Bob Vander Plaats in Iowa, a much more conservative place, she says, I'd sign a 6-week abortion ban. Well, which one is it? And I think we have to take her at her word that she would sign a 6-week abortion ban. And I don't think that represents consensus in this country. And the problem is you're going to divide the country even more, and Republicans don't need that right now. We need to win. And to win, we need to let people speak themselves, not put it in the hands of politicians.
It seems like something that might come up at a debate.
Someone asks, Phil, I'll answer. I mean, the thing that's different about my debate performances from the other folks is I actually listen to the questions and then answer the question that's asked rather than the answer that I memorized beforehand.
I mean,
It's a crazy strategy, but we're gonna actually try to be responsive to people. And I think that's why you've seen our numbers go up after the last debate, because I think people looked on the stage and said, these are extraordinarily serious times. And we don't want to be treated unseriously. And when you say one thing in Iowa and something different in New Hampshire, when you're not telling people a responsive answer to a direct question, people begin to wonder how serious you are. And with the war in Israel, with the war in Ukraine, with the problems we have here at home economically, and the unrest that we have on our college campuses, you need a serious president who's going to answer the questions directly and tell people the truth. That's why we're running.
Governor Chris Christie, we always appreciate you coming in. Thank you
It's
very
great
much.
to be back here.
Thank you.
Good to see you both.